So yesterday, I'm over there scrolling on Instagram and I come across a post that TMZ posted. This post right here. JD Vance claims Ukraine supporters chased him and his 3-year-old daughter. Now, when I saw that, I said somebody lying because this man has Secret Service around him 24 hours a day. There is no way that Secret Service is going to allow anybody to put this man in harm's way. I posted about it, I rolled over, and I went to sleep. And the first thing I come across this morning is JD Vance's tweet regarding this situation. JD Vance says, "Today, while walking my 3-year-old daughter, a group of Slava Ukraini protesters followed us around and shouted as my daughter grew increasingly anxious and scared. I decided to speak with the protesters in the hopes that I could trade a few minutes of conversation for them leaving my toddler alone. Nearly all of them agreed. It was mostly respectful conversation, but if you're chasing a 3-year-old as part of a political protest, you're a shit person." And I said at that moment, both TMZ and JD Vance is full of shit. Here's why.
Good evening, I'm Marilla Porter. Dozens of people protesting Vice President J.D. Vance today. They set up just feet from Vance's home in East Walnut Hills. Local 12's Christian Hauser is here with their message. Christian.
Well, I'd say there were about 30, maybe 40 people who came out to voice their opposition to Vice President Vance. Now, they stood at the intersection of Columbia Parkway and William Howard Taft with signs and flags. Now, police actually have Vance's street blocked off in both directions. Now, the majority of signs were related to supporting Ukraine in its war with Russia. This was the second day for these protests. I'm told that there were about double the amount of people who were there today as compared to yesterday. Now, I spoke with one couple who actually have family fighting on the front lines in Ukraine. Here's some of what they had to say.
We saw a Facebook post out of the blue, and we were feeling really out of the blue that we can't do anything right now, so we came out and have signs here and protesting. So I feel like there is something to do. People need to come out and support and know that U.S. is still with Ukraine.
And while the group did receive plenty of honks and other shows of support from passing drivers, there were some expletive-laden exchanges with supporters of Vance and President Donald Trump. Now, there is another protest planned for tomorrow afternoon in that same area. Marella, back to you.
All right, thank you, Christian. And the vice president says he was out walking with his 3-year-old daughter, and some of those protesters followed them around while shouting. On X, he said his daughter was scared. Vance says he decided to speak with the protesters in hopes that a few minutes of conversation would leave his toddler alone. While he says the conversation was mostly respectful, Vance criticized the protesters' actions.
Now, the reason why I say TMZ is full of shit is because I know they saw the video of the conversation that took place between JD Vance and these protesters. And yet they wrote that gotcha headline, JD Vance chased by protesters along with his 3-year-old daughter. It's designed to pull you in. And then most people aren't going to read the article. They're just going to go with the headline. Here's how part of the conversation went.
I can be called up from the base of Russians. It's an illegal war. Well, sir, I agree. Actually, the Russians do have some illegal war. The Ukrainians have no way. Exactly why we should support it. Again, it means the war to be well, again, their support. Their ability to continue fighting is heavily dependent on continued Americans.
Right, so you're yanking for the people are dying. What I told the gentleman earlier is that we think it's in the best interest of our country, and frankly, in the best interest of the Ukrainians to stop. No one has articulated strategies. Selling them out. Absolutely.
Perspective, I disagree. I think that what we're doing is we're actually forcing a diplomatic settlement. If you talk to Joe
Nobody in Ukraine benefits. No one.
Do you think Russia can be diplomatic?
If you could speak to the ally?
This is about a separate country, and I don't think our investment in that country can go on indefinitely. I understand the disagree.
We're forcing to settle.
We're forcing both the Russians and the Ukrainians.
Russia won't settle.
Exactly. They certainly invaded Ukraine in 2022.
And
But there needs to be a settlement. Ma'am,
They are the aggressor every time.
ma'am, I understand that that's your view, and certainly they have, and certainly I have condemned, ma'am, please, you're interrupting. I'm speaking with you, and I'm trying to be respectful. I have condemned the invasion, but I've also condemned the prejudice. That is the policy of the administration. And I've talked to you guys now for about 5 minutes. And what I, ma'am, now that's a different question. I'm happy. Would you like me to talk about how I've changed my view on Donald Trump from 10 years ago? Because I talked about it a lot during the campaign, and then the American people voted and made him the president of the United States.
In our leaders. Got no integrity.
Some
integrity in our leaders. It's called not having any integrity. That's what I expect my
It
kids.
must be nice to go through life and see that everybody who disagrees with you has no integrity. I have more respect for you. Ma'am, look at my 3-year-old daughter now, and I told you, I talked to you for 5 minutes, and now,
Yeah, you need to sign up for
I did not agree to have my 3-year-old to have people run around and yell at her, and I did talk to you, and I had said, if I talk to you for a few minutes, will you leave my 3-year-old daughter alone? And you said yes. So I'd like you guys to respect that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Number one, did you hear him admit that Russia started the war, that Russia invaded Ukraine? Number two, it is obvious that this is a conversation that's taking place, and there's two different viewpoints, and passions are running high on one side because they have empathy, they care about what's happening to the Ukraine and the Ukrainians. The other side, there is no empathy. However, they're going back and forth, two different viewpoints, passions are high. TMZ wrote a headline that made people think that there was a mob of angry people running after and chasing down J.D. Vance and his 3-year-old daughter. The way TMZ wrote that headline, you would think there was a mob of angry people running down and chasing down police officers like they did on January 6th, when that just wasn't the case. J.D. Vance in his tweet said he had a problem with political protests. Well, guess what, J.D. Vance? This is America. They have the right to protest. And may you never know peace wherever you go in this country. I pray wherever you go in this country that there are protesters there to make life miserable for you. Lastly, J.D. Vance is a shit person because he knew that those protesters were out there. And what did he decide? Oh, I'm going to take the baby for a walk. Yeah, sweetie, let's go for a walk in front of the protesters where passions are high and no one really likes me in that mob of protesters. J.D. Vance went out looking for a moment. He got it. And because of that, J.D. Vance, no one was going or running after your daughter. They were going after you and your shit policies. And you are the shit person. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching my video. If you are looking for daily political commentary, make sure you hit that subscribe button or you hit that follow button. And make sure that you are following me out there on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube, on Substack, and on Threads. I'll see y'all in the next one.